In 2000, I created the world's first interactive virtual training system. Our software is still the best. I trained my brain by putting a sign on my wall that said, "Congratulations, you get another day." Eventually, I just started to really understand how lucky we are to get one more day. So now when I wake up, dude, I'm extremely excited to get the day going. And if you really believe that, dude, it's hard to go back to sleep.
Brad's like one of the most generous people that I think I've ever met. I feel like you have this interesting relationship with money. And my opinion is you don't like money.
Is that right?
The great Brad Lee.
Brad Lee.
Brad Lee.
One of the great young entrepreneurs in the United States.
Was built multiple multi-million-dollar enterprises. Top 25 entrepreneur podcast in the world. Father of 7, a husband, a philanthropist, an investor, an author, and a true leader.
I don't worry about failing. I figure out how can I not fail by winning. Other entrepreneurs are like, well, geez, I better not lose or I'm going to look stupid.
If you woke up tomorrow morning and everything's wiped out, where do you start?
I'd pull out my phone and I would record a message to the world.
What would that message say?
I would say, folks.
What up, Brad?
What's going down?
How you doing, man?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be you too.
I'm feeling pretty good. Joined, as always, by Dean Lyulkin. What up, Dima?
Yeah, the wise silent.
The wise silent. Listen, it ain't going too well for your friends in Ukraine.
Is that right?
I think if I had a choice, I'd rather be Russian.
In that endeavor, indeed.
But we're not here to talk about Ukraine, and we're not here to talk about Russia. We're here to talk about Brad. And I feel like
We're here to have a stern talk.
well, we're here to have a stern talk about Brad.
Let's do it.
You go on so many, or you invite so many people onto your podcast, right?
Indeed.
Authors, artists,
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Strugglers.
We've been on.
Champions.
Yeah. Champions,
Athletes.
politicians.
All kinds of people.
Yeah. How often do you get interviewed, and do you feel awkward when you're getting interviewed? Is that weird?
I don't feel awkward.
Okay. But
There's no buts.
no? Okay. You're calm.
I don't feel awkward. Listen, when you live the truth and you own your authenticity,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to feel awkward.
Yeah. It's different. Like for other people who, I wouldn't necessarily say you're an influencer, but for people who you know, or people that would hang out with you, they create these massive lies around their personas, right? And if you've ever met like liars, they create the most extreme lies. And then to like not get found out that they're lying, they keep lying, right? They create this like never ending
Facade.
and it's weird. It's a lot to keep up. It's a lot to
There's a
keep.
name for that, right? What are those called? Special liars. There's like a word.
Well, I know one. I ain't going to say him on camera. I know one. He may owe me some money. I don't know. Does he owe you money? Perhaps. We're not going to talk about that today. But I want to talk about Brad. And the reason I want to talk about Brad is I feel too often you don't talk about yourself. You talk about other people. You kind of hype them up. You're the cheerleader for entrepreneurs and business people, and help them grow their brand, amplify their brand. And today is not about amplifying a brand. You know, Dean and I are friends with Brad. We do business with Brad, but we're friends with Brad. And the private conversations, right, that we get to have with Brad are I would argue, are way more interesting than the public facing, right? Like stuff that people see online. And so sort of a long intro, but what I do want to ask you is, I feel like you have this interesting relationship with money.
Really?
And my opinion is you don't like money.
Is that right?
I feel like money chases you
And I run from it.
and you run from it.
Could be.
And sometimes you turn around and shoot it or strangle it to death.
Yeah. Why is that?
I definitely brush it off.
Yeah. I don't think you're very interested in money.
You know, money's not a main motivator, although I'd like it.
Do you really though?
Sure. You're talking on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, subconsciously, which means below awareness,
Yeah.
would be impossible for me to understand because it's below my awareness. However, I would think that there could be some issue with money deep down. Otherwise, I'd probably have a lot more of it.
Yeah.
But I don't do too bad, so I'm okay.
Well, it's more of a relationship with money. I'll give you an example. I've made a lot of money in my career, and Dean's my best friend for, since I was 9 years old. And he always says to me, he's like, money chases you, but you hate it. I don't like money. I don't like money. I don't like things. I don't like accumulating things. But Dean would always say to me, like, it's like this, there's this odd polarity between you and money where you almost feel guilty for having it. And so Brad's like one of the most generous people that I think I've ever met. Right? It's like, you ever see that movie? What was that movie, Goodfellas? He's like talking about how one of the characters will tip the waiters for keeping the ice cold. Do you remember that line?
No.
No. Well, it's just like every time I'm with you, it's like you're giving people money, and the money keeps coming back. Oddly, it's like you could give it away and it just keeps coming back, keeps coming back, keeps coming back. But I don't know. You have this, I wouldn't say odd relationship with money, but it's like.
So we know it's not really, you said it's not about the money.
Yeah.
So
What?
Your drive, your ambition, everything you achieve every single day. We see it, right? On social media, you're honest. You're posting an alarm clock at 4:30 in the morning.
It's a great point.
I'm still asleep for at least 3 hours.
I see it at 11 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, wait, what? He woke up at 4:45?
So waking up at 4:30, where you are in life, that is not about chasing money.
Yeah.
So what is it about?
Human physiology, I would say.
He's got to get up and take a
You
piss.
just can't.
No, it's not getting up to take a piss. It's like I wake up, my eyes open, and I'm extremely grateful
Okay.
that I have the day. Like, I've trained my brain to be extremely grateful for waking up. So when I wake up and realize that I'm getting another one, or so it appears,
Yeah.
I get excited.
Okay, so
Right?
so pause real quick. Where did the gratitude come from? Because you said I've trained my brain. So there was a moment in time before you had the gratitude
Yes.
where you didn't like wake up and you're like, I love my wife, I love my kids.
No, I may have woken up, but I wake up and then I think, I'm going to get some more sleep
Yeah.
because I wasn't grateful. I wasn't in that. I didn't have that perspective. So I trained my brain by putting a sign on my wall that said, congratulations, you get another day. And so I used to wake up and, feel like I'm going to go back to bed, and then I'd read the sign and still go back to bed. And eventually I just started to really understand how lucky
Yeah.
we are to get one more day, even one more day. And so I just started to train my brain. And so it became part of me. So now when I wake up, dude, I'm extremely excited to get the day going. Why? Because, dude, I mean, that's a gift. And if you really believe that, dude, it's hard to go back to sleep. So when I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, for whatever reason, I just wake up. And it's not always 4:30. Sometimes it's 5:30. Sometimes it's 6. Sometimes it's 3:45. And I've woken up at 3:45 before, and I think, damn, this is like too early.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? I only need a couple hours to get my morning routine in. But the reason I wake up is because when I open my eyes, I get excited and the endorphins start pumping. And next thing you know, I'm up.
Okay.
I'm at them.
All right. So you're up and at 'em, but let's say tomorrow you woke up and everything got wiped out. So no followers, no money, no network. You wake up, your whole life's changed. There was a movie. Do you remember that movie with Nick Cage? It was like this duality of life where you had this
Christmas movie.
It was a Christmas movie.
Yeah, what was it called?
I don't remember, but it was like this duality
Family
of
Man.
life, Family Man, where you could
a
like
great movie.
make this decision. It was like choose your own adventure books, and you go this direction. You turn to page 22 and shit, okay, you're dead, right? It's like if you woke up tomorrow morning and everything's wiped out, where do you start? Knowing what you know today, the brain stays, the experience, all that stuff.
I'd pull out my phone.
Okay.
I would open up a social media app and I would record a message to the world.
What would that message say?
I would say, folks, for whatever reason, I'm supposed to start over. Maybe it's so you can watch how easy it actually is to build a brand to build a company and to freaking carry on. Regardless of how bad you think life is, watch me. And then I would use that opportunity to rebuild.
So you're always the foil.
The foil?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're the foil. Because it's not about...
What is a foil? Is that like a goyle?
No. Yeah. Like,
I don't even know what a goyle is.
I don't know what a goyle... I know what a foil is. But what I mean by...
is the dude that snips the foreskin, no?
Oh, that's a moil.
Oh, a moil.
Does he suck it up? Never mind. We're not gonna go there.
The tradition is that they do. And again, I question that tradition. I don't know about that. But I hear that is a fact.
Well, there was a rabbi in New York who had something on his lip. And he did that. And like thousands of kids got something in the nether region. But in any event.
Well, again, I would highly recommend that the Jewish tradition get together and change that one.
Yeah, we'll
take that under advisement.
When we have our next Jewish Congress meeting, we'll edit that out.
That's
anyway.
probably where Dirty Cocksucker came about.
No, but what I mean by foil is that, again, it's not about you. Like, I watch your social media, and it's like you're always explaining how the world works to people. It's never about you.
I'm explaining how, from my perspective, it works, because I don't know how the world works. I just observe.
I feel like whenever we have discussions, you're like, should have done that 10 years ago. Should have done that 20 years ago. So you do understand how the world works. People, it's like, the older we get, right? I'm 45, he's 46. We're still waiting for that moment where we sort of figure out how the world works without realizing that we do understand how the world works.
Well, we trade youth for wisdom.
Right. And then we get our wisdom and then we die.
Yeah.
But it's like, and I don't mean to be like philosophical about this, but there was this, there's this writer who talks about consciousness, and he's like, the past and your past trauma is as false as what you can achieve in the future. And the only thing that matters today, which I think is really interesting, because most people keep chasing a future without realizing that the future that they wanted from years ago, they're living today. And you're living that. I don't mean to be philosophical, but you really are. The trappings of wealth and the things that people see on social media, you have that. You don't even care.
Oh.
Yeah.
The trappings.
Yeah. See, you laugh about it because you don't even care.
The trappings.
When you were 25 years old, if I would have met you, I rewind time and I see the BRAD LEA at 25 years old, and I said, in 25 years, you're going to, or 20 years, you're going to have Ferraris and Rolls Royces. You're going to travel in private jets, big swanky office, an amazing amount of influence on the internet. You're going to be walking down the street and people are going to be coming up to you, knowing who you are, just wanting to shake your hand. Tell them, like, they want to tell how you somehow change the trajectory of their life. What would you have said?
I know.
At 25, you knew you were going there?
Well, at 25, I knew I wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, intuition maybe.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a youngster,
yeah,
my style as a juvenile ran with the gang, slanged in the meanwhile. Banking. I specialized in ganking. Okay. So, I mean, at the end of the day, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a movie star.
Okay.
And almost
like 5,
became
7, 10.
Yeah, ever since I was like, young, 6.
Was there a movie where you
first
saw?
I wanted to be a cop. And I still kind of want to be a cop. Like, if I could just pick a dream job,
yeah,
it'd be a cop.
Because you want to save people?
No, because you get to, have action and adventure and save people and help people. But
it's funny how you brush over that.
What?
Well, you love the action, but there's something about, what a police officer stands for, right? That they're saving people.
Well, they are, aren't they?
Yeah. No, they are.
Shit goes wrong. What do? People call the police. The police are supposed to come and help.
But is that what you do on social media?
I don't think so.
There's no similarity.
Well, not saving people. I try to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't you? Doesn't everybody? Anybody that's good?
I wouldn't know. I'm not good.
You're not.
But I see your social media, and I see someone who wants to save people.
Well,
Almost like a preacher.
Well, listen, we're supposed to set an example.
Yeah.
So
Let's go back. So anyway, going back in time. So you wanted to be a cop, maybe a movie star.
not maybe a movie star. I wanted to be a cop, and then that I kind of grew up out of that, and then I just wanted to be a movie star.
Like who?
Like back in those days,
Yeah.
I don't remember, but like Rob Lowe and
Yeah, dude.
freaking
Yeah,
all the
dude.
little teen idols.
Yeah.
And so
The guy still looks great.
Rob
I
Lowe
started.
looks fantastic.
I started, auditioning for plays, and I got a couple roles, and it was fun.
Was that scary?
No. And I memorized lines pretty easily, and I always got the rave reviews in the newspaper, and of particular note, young Brad Lee, and so I liked it. And then I started going out to auditions and whatnot, and I'd get a few roles here and there. I was in a Levi's commercial. I was the little kid that got trampled in Animal House, and I was just always enamored by the glitz and the glamour, but more importantly, the attention. Mm-hmm. I'd be on the set behind the lines, so to speak, behind the ropes, because I was obviously in the film. And, people would always be looking and wondering who I was and wanting to talk to me. And I just liked it.
Yeah.
I think we
Why?
all like attention, don't we?
But for you personally, what do you think? What's the motivator there? Why do you like the attention?
Maybe because I didn't get any from my parents. Who knows? Is this a therapy session? I thought
No.
it was a Stern talk.
No, I just want to understand,
Phil?
dude. I'm not going to talk about retaliatory tariffs or something that my producer wanted me to talk
I'm
about.
all for the tariffs, by the way.
Dude, we got to get back to some sort of equilibrium in world trade. That's ridiculous.
Well, if you ask me, it's a tactic to create leverage, and that's what we need is some leverage.
Yeah.
We've been stepped on, taken advantage of, and basically laughed at for the last, I'd say, 10 years at least.
I mean, Trump was talking about this. I remember as a kid, he was on the Oprah Winfrey show or something. He was talking about how the U.S. was just getting destroyed, right? That things weren't fair.
Hey, I've got a question for you. How come when the microphone turns on,
Yeah.
you get real somber and quiet?
I'm not somber and quiet. No.
You notice that? Like when the cameras aren't on,
I feel like
he
you guys are both,
he talks
playing a
normal,
role.
and then as soon as the camera goes on, it's, "Hello, I'm William Stern, and I'm very smooth and easy."
We all do that.
Yeah.
I feel like.
We all don't do that.
It's like a
Speak for
it's
yourself.
like a
You got a
mask we
turd in your
wear.
pocket, Dean.
A what?
You got a turd in your pocket.
A little
Who's
bit.
we? I don't. I'm the same off and on camera. Would you not say?
No, you're the same person.
That's right.
Yeah.
When the camera
I'd
comes
say there's
on,
a dial.
when the camera
and it
comes
goes
on,
from
I
like
don't go,
8 to 8.5.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's more accurate.
Thank you.
But you're an interesting guy. You may not think you're interesting because like you said, right, for you to understand what you're thinking on a subconscious level is impossible.
Well, you can't. It's subconscious.
Right. Yeah. But from a third party observer, we were talking about your relationship with money earlier. You do have an interesting relationship with money because when I first met you, you're like, well, I'm not an influencer. And I'm
Why
like,
not?
I'm like, what? Like Dean, 7 years ago or something is sending me TikToks of this guy named Brad Lee. I was like, who is that, dude? Remember this?
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm like, who is this guy? He's giving business advice. What has he accomplished?
This is before it was popular, right?
Dude,
this
was
COVID.
TikTok was brand new.
Yeah.
This might have been in 2019. It might have even been.
I remember
there's a
watching
difference
Dan
between-
Pena, Andy Elliott, Brad Lee, and I was like, all right, I like Brad.
Yeah, everybody chooses a horse in the race, right?
Listen, influential and influencer are two different things.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I think I might be influential,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'm an influencer. In other words, to me, an influencer is someone who goes out every day and tries to,
Lie.
become some sort of, expert or celebrity in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that I would say, oh, he's an influencer, meaning he's on social media influencing. That's what he does. But I don't do that. I'm a business individual. I'm a business person.
So you don't think when someone applies for a loan through real money lending that you're influencing them to make that decision? I mean, I
Well,
feel
that's
like-
influential.
Yeah.
I'm not an influencer. But again, I mean, theoretically, I am categorized as an influencer. So I guess, if you ask me today, are you an influencer? I'd say, yeah, I technically am. But I don't want to pigeonhole me as an influencer because I think I'm more than that.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that word real.
Just like sales training. Everybody, thinks I'm a sales trainer because I used to train sales and I still can and I'm very good at it. However, I'm not just a sales trainer. Don't put me in that label.
You're a used car salesman.
Yeah, I'm a used car salesman.
Hey, pal.
First of all, I sold more than used. It was new as well.
I didn't mean anything about that, Brad.
But I also sold art. I also sold all kinds of things.
That's interesting.
So I'm a salesperson, but in reality, I'm not even a salesperson. I'm a help person.
Yeah.
I help people. I help people solve problems, and it usually relates to the products or services that I represent.
Yeah.
Just like training. There's a lot of companies out there that think they have a training program and they actually have an exposure program, which means they're just exposing people to good information. They're not actually training them on it. Training requires good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. Look at any athlete, look at any top level professional. There was repetition involved. Companies, they'll let someone watch a video and check a box that they're trained. That doesn't make them trained. That makes them exposed. Now, here in Las Vegas, I don't know where the law is in California, but I'm pretty sure it's the same. You can get arrested for exposure. In fact, Dean was arrested here for indecent exposure, weren't you? But they had to let you go for lack of evidence.
He has a small Peter.
Amount of evidence.
All right, well, let's talk about training for a minute because this is something that interests me. So earlier you were saying, well, I'm a businessman.
Yes.
Or you said business person, but you're a businessman. And then you discovered social media and decided to make content. And I think so many people that are influencers, right? You're not saying you are one, I'm saying you're influential. They put the cart before the horse. Yeah. I mean, that they make the content and then from there they make a business. And then they're like whoring themselves out to whatever brand wants to give them a deal, right?
Yep.
It's something that we've learned, right? Over the last few years.
Yeah, that's more of an influencer.
Yeah, and they don't have an audience. And you give them this money, you're like, all right, well, deliver. And they're like, well, as it turns out, I don't have a real audience. And you're like, all right, well, I'm not learning this lesson. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. What was it?
No, you got it backwards.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to do the George Bush thing, but yeah. Do you remember we made that comment?
Yes.
Fool me, don't get fooled again.
Love that guy.
But
because I'm the decider.
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
Now watch this shot.
I'm the decider.
But you're a businessman. You're a businessman first, and then you discovered social media, and for whatever reason, people liked what you had to say. And it could be that you're real, it could be that you're relatable, man of the people. I would argue you're like The Rock. Like I like professional wrestling, right? You're like The Rock. The Rock's relatable, right? He's influential. He's not an influencer. He has his own products. He's bald, but has a shampoo brand.
Yeah.
You have a beard. And a year ago, I'm sitting with you at that steakhouse in Bellagio. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to buy you this domain. You should own a razor company. You're like, a razor company? Why am I going to?
I don't use them.
I don't use them. And then from that day forward, I grew like this beard and used a one to trim it. I'm like, but the fact is that brands are attracted to you. People are attracted to you. You have this weird polarity with the world.
Well, some people are. Some people aren't. Same with anybody.
With The Rock.
Same with The Rock.
Same with anybody.
Same with The Rock, yeah.
But like The Rock, you represent something that there are a lot of people out there. I'd say millions of people in America. They're missing something that Brad Lea has, and they look up to you, right?
Yeah.
They want that thing that they believe you have.
But it's not the trappings.
Yeah, but
that's not what they want. It's not the trappings at all.
It's the certainty.
Yes.
It's the confidence.
Yes.
Right?
It's the opinion. Most people don't have an opinion because they're so worried about offending everyone. They're so worried about everybody else's opinion. They have allodoxophobia. I don't.
Yeah.
I have my opinion, and I think I deserve an opinion. And whether you like my opinion or not, I'm going to state my opinion because it's my opinion. And so I value it. And most people, they don't value their opinion because ultimately, at the end of the day, they don't validate themselves. They seek validation from others. And I don't.
But wait, entrepreneurs are attracted to you. Entrepreneurs have strong opinions. In fact, I would argue most entrepreneurs never grow beyond their own leadership skills. What do I mean by that? I mean that they're the bottleneck in their own business. I don't know if you would agree with that.
I, in a lot of cases, including me, would agree.
Yeah.
However, entrepreneurs take risk, and ultimately, I think they have allodoxophobia more than anyone, because what if they fail?
Yeah.
Boy, that would just be disastrous.
Because they're worried about others seeing them fail. They're not worried about them failing.
Yeah, I personally, again, I don't worry about failing. Okay, I figure out how can I not fail by winning, right? So I'm focused on how do I win? How do I win? I got to figure this out. Other entrepreneurs are like, well, geez, I better not lose or I'm going to look stupid. Like,
here's what they don't tell you. Systems are what set you free. Not hustle, not 80-hour work weeks, but systems. And on June 7th and 8th, I'm hosting the Real Business Growth Summit 2 at my headquarters in Las Vegas. And we're going to show you exactly how to build a company that doesn't need you in every meeting, every fire, and every decision. See, we've got executives from Meta, Google, Go High Level, and many more flying in to show you exactly how the biggest and best are doing. And if you're serious about your business, hit the link, because this is where real growth begins.
But see, that's what they like about you. It's the certainty. You just said that. Did you not? It's the certainty that people want.
He's Superman. He has a cape.
That's
they
right.
don't make movies about superheroes that are businessmen.
No.
Right? The dude was a journalist or something, right?
Yeah.
But he is the Superman to the business owner.
Yeah. And what's funny about Superman is Clark Kent is how Superman, right? What was his real name?
Clark Kent.
No, that's not his real name. Khalil. So Khalil views, this is interesting.
No, Khalil's his dad.
Kryptonite.
Stop it. Dean has a problem. He's Russian, so he has a problem with superheroes. But follow me down this road real quick, because I think there's something to be said about Brad having this superhero aura, right? It's not a complex, but it's an aura. When Superman views mankind, he views them as weak and feeble, damaged. And so that's why when you see Clark Kent, he's a journalist, but he's like knocking over a cup of coffee and he's tripping on the street and he doesn't know what to say when he sees girls. And then he gets rid of the Clark Kent, right, suit and tie, puts on his Superman costume, right? And that's who you are.
For him, it's just his clothes, though.
That's just his clothes, right?
You too.
No, absolutely, right? But he views man as this weak being.
Well, comparatively, they are.
Yeah, right. Which I think is interesting because Batman's a lot different. I don't mean to get on this comic.
Is that your favorite?
What?
Batman?
Who's your favorite comic book hero?
Well, if I could be any of them, it'd be Superman.
Yeah.
Superman.
I literally don't like men.
Why Superman? Why Superman?
Well, because, dude, he can fly, number one. He can do anything, and he's indestructible, and unless it's for kryptonite, he's all powerful.
So I'm getting there. So everybody has their Achilles heel, and I want to get back to training in a second, but everybody has their Achilles heel. I know what mine is. Does Brad Lea have an Achilles heel?
I think so.
What is it?
I would say leadership.
How so?
Well, I can't seem to put together a team.
Yeah. Why is that? Because it's not
leadership skills, I guess. I'm not touchy-feely, huggy, and I think you need a lot of that for culture. I grew up where I didn't really praise people. I freaking punked people. And that's how I like. Do
you think Bill Gates is the huggy type guy?
Bill Gates?
Yeah. Do you think
Bill Gates was in the right place at the right time? Guys, listen. I mean, Bill Gates is no freaking genius, dude. He came out with a freaking software or an operating system that went on all the computers in the world, and he was in the right place at the right time.
Okay.
I don't think Bill Gates is like this unbelievably smart individual.
I'm just talking about leadership. I'm just talking about leadership.
No, but money talks and bullshit walks.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, if I was paying huge salaries to everybody and their dog, I could probably attract some pretty good people.
Yeah.
But I'd chase them off if I don't have leadership skills.
Yeah.
Does that like EQ?
Does it what?
Is that like EQ?
Like emotional
As
quotient.
opposed to IQ?
Yeah. Maybe my EQ level's a little low.
It's not. Your EQ level is exceedingly high, and that's why you're relatable to so many people.
So then why is it I cannot find a whole group of people to take my vision and move it forward? In 2000,
Yeah.
I created the world's first interactive virtual training system. I was first. I should have been a billionaire by now. Every company on earth should have it.
Yeah.
Still should. And still to this day, our software is still the best. However, there's much bigger companies. Why?
Good.
Well, because they brought in,
Yes.
a team of people that all had talent in all their areas, and whoever the founder was probably a little bit smarter and just stepped out of the way. I tried to do that, but I could never find them.
I'm the same as you. Leadership was it was the duality. Leadership was my strong suit. Leadership was my Achilles heel. So I grew the firm as big as I could get it. But I don't have to drink an ocean's worth of water to tell you that it's salty. And once I figured out that I was the bottleneck, I exited because I got it to where I could get it. Then it required a different skill set. A skill set that
I haven't found that skill set.
no.
If anybody's listening to the podcast that thinks they have it, please apply.
Well, listen, does Kajabi have it? We were just reading it. We're at dinner. I'm not going to say where we were at dinner, but it was
Kajabi raised $550 million. Give me $550 million, dude. I'll blow this place through the roof.
That's what they did.
COVID's over.
That's what they did. So hold on. So this is an interesting point. So we're talking about Kajabi, which is not a better product than Lightspeed, but it is a more famous product than Lightspeed, which I think is interesting because does McDonald's have the greatest hamburger? No.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Does Starbucks have the best coffee?
No.
No. But what they do have is marketing.
Well,
And
again, money is what they do have.
Right. So listen to what they did. Everybody familiar with what a hot dose is in drugs?
Depends on, are you on OnlyFans? What
No,
dose of
hot
what?
dose.
kind?
Like, a drug dealer gives somebody on the street a hot dose and
Too much heroin.
then they die.
A deadly dose.
A deadly dose. Tiger Global gave Kajabi $550 million cash infusion. They're doing 60 million in revenue today. If I was doing 60 million in revenue today, I always talk about this, right? If Bill Gates woke up with Oprah Winfrey's money, he'd jump out of a window. If I woke up today and I had Kajabi's revenue, I'd kill myself. How do you get $550 million and then 3-4 years later turn it around and all you have is 60 million in revenue? That's a dead company. That's dead. And there's nothing that can save them. They're like, Peloton,
Yeah.
the treadmill company, same thing.
They're dead.
Yeah, they are. And I don't want to say anything
Maybe I
bad.
should kill my company so I could be worth 2.2 billion.
Well, it's a COVID darling is my point. So the thing about training is, and this
They
is
all had their moment.
This is my opinion, and I think it's fact. My kids always say, that's an opinion. That's not fact. I think this is fact. During COVID, you had all these course creators coming out of the woodwork selling or trying to monetize in any event their knowledge. My point about
Which people should, by the way.
I don't disagree with that point, but just like you go to church, right? They're happy to get the money that jingles. They'd rather get the money that folds. I would argue one of the biggest mistakes that Kajabi made was not focusing on training corporations, right? It's like, who do you want to attract? Sure, we can attract the fledgling course creators that want to monetize their knowledge and change the world by teaching yoga and how to train dogs. I get it. That's fantastic. And if you attach a good marketing system to epic courses that have, what were the 3 components that you said for training?
Good content.
Good content.
That's the right way to do it in the first place. You have to have the right information.
Yeah.
Then you need repetition.
Repetition.
Then you need practice.
But accountability was
Then you
one of
need
them.
accountability.
Accountability is another. So they have to have those components in order to have a powerful course. You've got to attach, right, the wagon to the horse, which I think is marketing. I think what most corporations again, Kajabi included, doesn't understand is, sure, I'll park my videos on your website. Then do I just wait? You know what I mean? Am I just like, are people going to be like, is there a marketplace and they're going to find me somehow? Is there do I have to rub Buddha's stomach in order to sell my courses? No, you got to market your courseware. You got to know how to do that. So I think it's incumbent upon these marketing platforms, these training platforms.
Well, they make you believe that it's easy.
Yeah.
They make you believe that all you need is your videos.
Yeah.
Upload them and put a price and hit the button and you're rich.
Yeah.
So people do it. And their price point is like, $99 a month for a beginner.
Yeah.
So like $99 a month, people just forget and they don't ever cancel it. And they always have this in the back of their head. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Well,
I'm not going to turn it off. I'm not going to turn it off. Right. It's like Netflix or Hulu. Like, what if I want to watch? I'll just leave it. Right. It doesn't bother them enough to turn it off. And with Kajabi, as you can see, it's not about AOV. It's not about average order value. It's just about active accounts. What does active means? It means they'll pay $99 a month. Who cares? I'm going to get famous. I'm like, Brad, I've got the confidence. It's going to happen. And everyone's saying, well, what's your plan? Don't worry about my plan. I've got it on Kajabi. And this, I don't mean to go down the road about training systems, but I think it's interesting.
Well, Kajabi's not a training system.
Well, it's a
hosting solution.
Yeah, it's a hosting platform for videos that nobody watches.
Yeah. So again, I mean, they're why and how they accomplished what they've accomplished, I have no idea. But again, they probably found some people that knew some people that raised some money. So again,
and that was one.
Give me $550 million to blow Lightspeed up. Lightspeed be the biggest thing on planet Earth.
Can you even want 550 million? You'll take 50. Right,
well,
today.
I mean, again, I don't know about 50 because again, we make obviously money. The problem is we make profit. We have to pay people and be around the next month. So I can't, burn $2 million a year for 3 years because when you think about it, $2 million a year for 3 years, what's that? Let's say $75 million. If you gave me $75 million that I could just burn for 3 years, at the end of 3 years, the company would be worth $1 billion. So in reality, it's smart to do. I just wasn't smart enough to do it. I didn't understand raising money.
But you know now.
I know
so if
now.
you wanted to, right, this device, which so many people disregard. I see people playing Candy Crush or, death scrolling on their phone. But this device in and of itself, I mean, you could post tomorrow. Hey, thinking about raising $10 million for Lightspeed. If you're an accredited investor, DM me the word Lightspeed.
Yeah.
And there you go. You could do this.
But the smartest folks in the B2B SaaS space, whether they're in finance or they're actually working at one of your competitors, they should be watching this. They should be paying attention because the thing you cannot create from scratch is Brad Lee.
Yeah.
That's impossible. It's like saying I want to create Elon Musk, I want to create Bill Gates.
It's a great point. Steve Jobs, right?
The NVIDIA, CEO, Jensen Huang. It's not possible. You're not going to create it. You already have the most important piece. We need the people underneath.
The team.
Right? The team that are already doing this, not that want to do it,
again,
but have dreams of doing it.
That's my Achilles heel. For some reason, I cannot seem to find a solid team. Every time I find someone that I think is damn, I want that type of person. Well, they're not willing to come to work here. Maybe I'm not painting the picture, or maybe I'm not pursuing them aggressively because I never really have. But for whatever reason, that's my Achilles heel. That's why I said leadership.
Well,
why?
It can't be about money, right?
It's not money because you'd give away money.
No.
You'd go bankrupt giving away every dollar you had if it meant other people.
No, I wouldn't. And that's another thing. So if someone said, hey, you can hire this guy for $8 million a year. Well, dude, that would put us at zero profitability.
Yeah.
Is he an NFL quarterback? What's going on?
Who gets
I mean, and not only that, I don't believe that the people that ask for that can actually do it, or I probably would.
Yeah.
Because it's not as easy as people think. When you go into a business and you're trying to talk about training, most businesses aren't really too interested in training. You would think that they would be, considering it's probably the highest ROI possible.
I think it's the biggest ROI.
Yeah. So
it's one of the most misunderstood aspects of running any business.
Yeah. So Dean, aren't you now an RIA?
Yes, sir.
So why don't you put together a fund and we'll waste that money and then we'll sell in 2 or 3 years for a couple billion, and then everyone gets a fat return. And everyone will be like, how'd he do that? He finally quit trying to make money and he just started blowing it, because that's what it takes. It takes the ability to blow money without regard because you have a plan. And the plan, again, I just realized not too long ago that the software companies are the values strongly based on ARR.
Yes.
So if I would have known when I started this company, all I got to do is get that ARR up, I would have been giving it away.
Not to sound like incredibly intelligent, but when I met you, do you remember what I said about Lightspeed? Who gets Lightspeed? Who needs Lightspeed?
Everybody.
Everybody. Every single business needs a Lightspeed account. That's it. And it doesn't matter what they pay. We're talking about training systems, right? For corporations.
Yeah.
Everyone needs a Lightspeed. Why? Because it doesn't matter if you're a car dealership, an insurance company, a fintech company. It doesn't matter what platform you have. Every franchise system, McDonald's, Burger King, everybody under the sun needs a Lightspeed. Why? We talked about it, right? They need training. They need quality courseware. They need repetition. They need accountability. This is not like parking stuff on Kajabi and just, checking a box. Right? Brad said a few minutes ago, it's like, well, if you want the greatest ROI for your business, there's only one thing that you have to do. You have to properly train people. And that's the thing, right? That's the thing. It's like, it's the duality of life. Yes, everyone needs a Lightspeed, but it's like to give everyone Lightspeed requires investment. Why? Because if they make a Lightspeed account, they're gonna have to park their courseware there, and that's server space, and that costs money.
There's server space, there's employees, there's customer service, there's freaking people to make the courseware, think up the courseware, hold people accountable. Like Lightspeed at the end of the day is just a tool, but it's a tool everyone should have. It's like if a company that built homes had, six types of butter knives to build them with. You need more than a butter knife. So if you really want to build a home quickly and efficiently, I would suggest you get the right tools.
Yeah, it's like whenever I talk to people, I'm like, when I'm talking about like the right tool for the right job, right? It's like, could I change a tire with a screwdriver? Sure. Give me a Millennium. I'll get that wheel off. But if you gave me an impact gun, I'll get it off a lot quicker. That's the point, right? The right tool for the right job. And I personally think that in life as business owners, we have blind spots. And sometimes, and I don't mean to have this be a plug for the fraternity, but business coaches, right? Business gurus. I guess there's a plethora, a veritable overabundance of like business gurus on the internet telling you like, well, you got to start working on the business and get out of the business or whatever the fuck these people say. But a business coach that Dean and I had changed the trajectory of our life, like maybe a decade ago. But what business coaches tend to do is they illuminate these blind spots that exist in entrepreneurs' vision. We tend to not look back, right? We're always looking forward. But the blind spot, I feel like for Lightspeed, believe it or not, is just raising capital. And I put it down in my notes. I had like a list of things that I wanted to talk about. We hit the go back in time. You're like, well, if I could go back in time, I would do this. Raising capital, at least for Lightspeed, right? Not for BRAD LEA, right? There is a difference between Lightspeed and BRAD LEA. But I would argue raising capital, that's the rocket fuel. You raise capital for Lightspeed,
The only way I would actually do it is if I had an exact plan.
That's another point. We talk about that, right? Write a check. What are we going to do with the money?
Yeah. Because if someone said, here's 50 million, go blow it. I don't have an exact plan yet. I'd have to develop one.
No one will ever say that.
I'd probably take, a couple $1 million and bring in the right people to make that plan.
And, the truth is you go to some investment bankers and you're like, all right, this is my business. We've basically created this space. What should we do? And they bring in somebody like McKinsey, they pop the hood, right? They look at everything and they're like, all right, well, this is the team we got to bring in.
Or they bring in private equity and say, hey, they're going to find the right guy or gal to come into your business and be the president, the CEO, whatever you want to call them, underneath you, that are going to drive this in the direction that we know will get an exit that makes us happy. It'll make you happy too. But that's how most entrepreneurs are solving this.
Do you know some? Let's start setting some meetings.
He does. Absolutely. That's what Din does.
Let's accelerate that plan.
What we do know from our experience, and that's the super simple thing, is that the difference between where we are today and where we want to be is usually one or two very simple decisions, which will look simple in hindsight.
Yeah.
And they turn everything around. It's not about 100 decisions. It's not about working 24 hours a day and belaboring and sweating. It's about one or two really important decisions.
Yeah. And I think Brad said it really well.
We're probably not smart enough to make them, right? We need the right person to make those decisions.
I mean, I've said to Brad what I think, at least on the course creator side of things, I'm like, listen, here's what I think we should do. The training license side, I think I don't really understand that space insofar as pricing goes, is probably as well as you do, obviously. But on the course creator side, it's like, dude, get everybody in. Everybody. Have as many active users as we can. And on the training side of things, we just have to go out. We have to go after the people that have money to spend.
Well, I was talking with Jason earlier, and you know what I told him? I said, you know what we should do?
Yeah.
Is, we sell it's called a launch package. Mm-hmm. It's so anybody who has a course and wants to make one, they don't realize how much effort it really is and how much expertise you really need. Mm-hmm. So we sell that package, and we sell a coaching kind of help you do it.
Done with you package. Yeah.
I said, why don't we just give that away? Just give it away. So instead of asking money for it, just here, you can have it. The problem with that is when people have zero invested, they don't value it. Mm-hmm. And they basically never do anything with it. And I'm not trying to get 1 million people that aren't doing anything with it. I think my founder's mentality, which might be my Achilles heel, is I want people to actually do it right so people learn. Because the whole mission was to get the knowledge from people that have it to the people who need it. Yeah. So everybody succeeds. The reason this guy's failing is because he doesn't know what you know. And the reason that guy's failing is because they don't know what you know. What if everybody shared their information? What if everybody shared their knowledge? Yeah. And everyone had access to the information that they need to win? Well, the whole world would win.
This reminds me of a funny story. And this is really your story to tell, right? Which is the YouTube story, right? When we were working at Fisher.
Yeah, the YouTube story.
This is a good story. So Dean and I are working in San Francisco. Tell the story real quick.
Yeah, and I ran the trading department at a giant RA called Fisher Investments. And there was a guy, we won't use real names, but let's say there was a young guy that worked for me on the trading desk. And one day, this young man who makes 6 figures should be very, very
early
happy,
20s.
Right, early 20s.
Early 20s.
Early to mid 20s. Yeah. And he says, you know what, I'm leaving. I say, people generally don't quit all that much. So I want to know, where are you going? What's going on? What's this crazy idea you've got? I want to know. He says, I'm going to go work with my brother. I said, fantastic. What does your brother do? He's got this startup. And this is just after the dot-com bubble has burst. Mm-hmm. So everyone's very skeptical of dot-coms. He says, he's got this internet business. And I say, all right, well, let's talk about it. Just for shits and giggles. What's it called? And he looks at me and he says, YouTube. And I said, that is the dumbest name I've ever heard.
And I remember you telling me that this guy's leaving, right, to go work for his brother. And I'm like, well, what do they do? He's like, well, you take videos.
You put them on the internet.
You put them on the interweb. And I'm like, what? So why do I ask Dean to bring up this story? Well, yeah, if we give everybody a launch package at Lightspeed, all these course creators come and they park their stuff. How do we monetize that? My idea, and you may not like it, you hate all my ideas. We run ads. We run ads on their courseware. So we attract all these major corporations, right, that may be tangentially or non-tangentially related to what they do to come advertise. Hey guys, we've got this platform,
Well, the only reason they're going to advertise is if a whole bunch of people are selling that are taking the course.
Sure. I get it. Can't put the cart before the horse.
How are all these unknown course creators going to get their courses known?
Well, we have to offer them some marketing help.
There you go. There you go. I keep getting right back to that.
Yeah.
Like, just get me a marketing team, a world-class marketing team.
Well, listen, dude, we've gone off in a different direction, but I think you have a world-class marketing team. I just don't feel like the price point's right. But listen, I'll die on that hill.
I'll make the price free. Now what?
Can't give it away. That's the thing.
Okay, I'll make the price $90.
Yeah. Well, I think
By the way, you know what happened 6 months later with employee X who went to work at YouTube?
What?
YouTube sold to Google for $1 billion. That was a big number.
back then it was a billion.
Huge number.
Yeah, back then a billion was huge.
Mid-early 2000s.
Yeah.
$1 billion. His brother got $300 million along with his partner who also got $300 million. And this gentleman got $20 million in 6 months.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's the point, right?
Important lesson in humility.
Well, you know that Vimeo
Yeah.
was before YouTube?
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
And Vimeo didn't have as many share buttons. It had one.
Right.
And YouTube had a bunch of them. So
Is that what it
basically,
was?
yeah. So YouTube basically put share. Everywhere you went, it was a share button, like share. And Vimeo had one share button. And because YouTube was shared more, because more buttons, more opportunities to share, they shared, it destroyed Vimeo.
You know what else Vimeo didn't have? The guy who founded Vimeo, his father-in-law probably wasn't one of the biggest venture capitalists and
That's quite
technology titans
Yeah.
in Silicon Valley.
That's true.
YouTube did?
Yeah. Also, I might add this point.
Yeah.
The reason why PayPal had so much adoption was from the share button. So you could take a little snippet of code and put it on your page and just allow people to buy now using PayPal. And that's what changed our trajectory. But
Michael Lewis wrote a whole book about him.
Well, let's get some PE boys in here. They
You
say,
should.
hey, we need to bring in Carla from such and such or Jimmy from such and such, and you step aside and we'll turn this thing into a beast. I'll be like, let's
I don't know if
go.
you need to step aside, but you have to be willing to open the kimono and show everyone what you got down there.
yeah.
Well, go ahead. It's a big old veiny,
Is it really?
rock solid. Well, no, not really.
All right.
but it's thick. You know, I mean, it's
Girthy.
in other words, it's a listen. Sometimes I sit back and I think to myself, man, you know, because I always tell myself, I haven't really done anything because I really haven't compared to, but I've done something, obviously. How do you stay in business 25 years and never bounce a paycheck? How do you employ over 50 people for 25 years, never bounce a paycheck, always have profit, have 30,000 square feet in Las Vegas, help millions of people we've helped over the years, sold some of the biggest names on planet Earth, right? So, I mean, we've done something. And, dude, we make, 8 figures. Well, I should say we generate, a good number, but we never market it. We were always just referral, word of mouth here, word of mouth there.
Wild.
And I never really marketed. So just recently, I'm like, hey, we probably should market. So at the end of the day, we're attempting that. And so I'm working on it right now. So again, if there's anyone listening that is a marketing genius that says, oh, I can get you in front of people, but your offer's wrong, then I'll change the offer. Like, there is no part of me that says I'm doing it this way or no way. Like, I'm open to whatever works, because at the end of the day, I would be pissed off that I started the industry. I was the first on the block and I'm the only one that didn't sell for billions.
Yeah.
Like, why? Well, because you were in the way. Well, then I'll get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah. I don't think it's that.
Real advice for real business owners.
Yeah.
Every business,
opened up.
every business, not every business, but most businesses that I would say is above 20 employees. Maybe even 10, should have a training system, not a library of videos, but an actual training system, because it 2 to 3X's your valuation.
Okay.
Just being documented, makes you scalable and makes you more valuable. So any business right now, if they just took what's in their head, because most business owners, all they're knowledge is in their heads.
That's right.
Or the leadership's heads or the manager's heads. Like there's nothing documented. There's no training system. So if you just took a minute and documented everything that you know, how to handle everything, how to hire, how to fire, how to promote, all the systems and processes and procedures, and not in some dusty old handbook, but an actual interactive virtual training system, the value of your company explodes by 2 to 3 times. Why? Because you now have a company. You now have a system in place, and that makes a company more valuable. People that buy companies, they don't want to
buy a person.
You.
No.
Okay, so they're like, well, how do you do this? Well, you do this, you do that. Well, if he goes away, we're screwed. So again, just get a training system. It's $300 a month. Like, dude, is that a lot of money? People pay more than that for toilet paper in the bathrooms, right? They got coffee in their lobby, but 300 is too much to train and develop our most valuable asset, which are people. So any company that's listening, get yourself a Lightspeed training system. Now, I wish this was Howard Stern, not William Stern. So millions would be listening, and all of a sudden we'd do 100,000 businesses. But
We'll edit that out.
We'll get there.
We will get there. And not only that, this will live on in
perpetuity,
infamy.
That's right. All right. We don't have much time. I want you to talk real quick about the fraternity, real business coaching. With so many business gurus out there, each claiming, right, to have discovered Plymouth Rock, right?
Yeah.
It's because of them. How do you separate what the fraternity does from these other brands of business coaching?
Well, there's a number of things. I think number one, you hit it earlier. A lot of these guys built a business on coaching, but they've never really built a business. So they're just regurgitating what they've learned through books and other things. So when people pay these fees to belong to these coaching groups, they could just use ChatGPT and get the same value.
Yeah.
Because they've never done it. They don't have a business history. Some do, but most do not. They are just good marketers, and they're influencers, and they have a good spiel. And then, entrepreneurs come along and get suckered in, and they didn't do their due diligence. But with the fraternity, it's you and me, and you've built one. I've built several, not as big, but again, I'm still building. I'm still building. And more importantly, dude, I think most of them, they really don't care as much. I think what they're looking to do is get your money and hope they help.
Yeah.
We're looking to help and maybe get some money. I think the money's the secondary for us.
Yeah.
But coaching, for lack of better words, a lot of people think it's, you don't really need it. You can just get out there and learn yourself. No, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, if I could go back, I would have hired a lot more people than I did, because at the end of the day, man, if you have someone that actually knows and actually has done and has experienced all the things you're going to experience, dude, you could shave 5-10 years off of a journey very easily. You could literally eliminate a lot of potholes that you're going to hit for a fraction of the expense.
Because it's networking with a group of entrepreneurs that have already ascended to the point that you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking for a mentor. Every young man who has a mentor in his life, a big brother, a dad who's influential, who's actually willing to spend the time and teach them how to do something, right? That time spent, right? That changes the arc of where they get to in life. It doesn't matter if you're a machinist, doesn't matter if you fix cars for a living, but it's like, if you have this knowledge that's passed down by an older generation, it'll get you to where you need to go quicker. And in life, right? Like, time is the most valuable resource possible, right? You can give time away. You can never get it back. You seem like a guy that, this is my opinion, you give your time away. Right? You don't necessarily try to monetize it. And that's something that attracts me to you. We've got the Real Business Growth Summit obviously coming up in June. And I think I want you to just really quickly touch upon the types of speakers that come to the Real Business Growth Summit and how they differ from all these other types of events that are going on that some people see, right? Oh, on Instagram, oh, this guy's going to be here. He's got 15,000 doors. It'd be interesting. What's the difference in the events that we throw together?
Well, we have practitioners that are doing it day in and day out. They work at Google. They know the inside scoops. They're not speakers.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. We don't bring in speakers. We bring in practitioners.
Right. They're doers. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, a lot of these big events that you see coming around, all they want to do is see the people that they see on social media. They're going to sit there and they're going to listen to somebody elaborate on what they say on social media, which you could have just sat there and listened to all their content on social media. The people we bring in, they're not even on social media. They make social media. They're the ones in the
They've engineered social media.
Yeah, like Google, CRM companies, the companies that, when you're spending billions of dollars on ads, you're paying these people. And these people know the secrets, how to maximize your ad spend, how to get more traffic for less dollars or more traffic for the same dollars. They've got the secrets, the insights, because they're making it. They're the real deal.
Yeah. That's why the real named.
Yeah. So it's harder to sell tickets to these because, who's this person? Well, she's the, head of this at Google, well, I don't know who she is. I just told you she's the head of this thing at Google. So no, I'm going to go see the dude with the nose that always, it's like, dude, are you trying to be entertained or are you trying to be entertrained? Which one do you want?
That's good. Because, most people go to these things. It's like a dopamine fest. It's like a rah fest. They get all fired up and then they get home and they're like, well, nothing changed. I didn't learn nothing.
No, they say, dude, I just need to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do. I need to stop making excuses and just do it. And then the wife says, well, did they tell you how? No, they just told me I need to. Well, didn't you know that before you went?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I went there to figure out how to, but they didn't talk about that. They just said it, I needed to.
Yeah.
And God damn it, I do.
Yeah.
And now I'm fired up for another week. And then I'll go to the next one.
And then I'll go to the next one. Yeah. It's like when you have a bevy of speakers, and again, they're not speakers, as Brad said, but you got YouTube and you've got Google and you've got TikTok and you've got the co-founder of Go High Level who wants to come and talk. These are people that, in their own respects are subject matter experts. If you want to learn how to scale a brand using YouTube, well, who are you going to go to? Go to YouTube. They'll tell you how to do it.
They want you to know.
It's their platform. Like, it's incumbent upon them to pull back the veil, to go open kimono, like, this is what you got to do.
Yeah, I always like to say, listen, if you want real business growth, well, then go to the Real Business Growth Summit, because that's where the real people are. Again, it's not so you can take pictures. It's so you can, take trophies.
Before we go, I got two last questions. Was there ever a moment, either at Lightspeed or with your personal brand, where you're like, I can't do this anymore? Like, it's over. Like, did Brad Lea ever have like a quote unquote existential crisis?
Not to that degree.
Okay.
But on occasion I've thought, maybe I should do something else.
There's never been like the Great Recession of 2008 or
no, we thrive
the
in
pandemic.
Recessions. I love the pandemic.
What about right before the pandemic?
No.
What did things look like right before COVID?
Well, before COVID was
before all the eyeballs went to the internet.
Again, there was eyeballs on the internet even before COVID. But COVID made everybody go home and you still had to train people. So believe it or not, we actually got more phone calls. And then these experts that were running around getting all this money to pay or to be paid on stage and in person and in webinar or live events, they couldn't do them anymore. So they kind of looked to go online. And everybody realized that, online actually works. So I think what COVID did was proved a model. I remember in the financial services space, they would never sell online. Roofers, solar, none of these people would sell online. I tried to talk them into it. no, this is a belly to belly. This can't be done online. COVID came, and guess what? Now they do it online. Why? Because I can Google map your house and look at your roof, and I can do everything online. Almost.
It's so weird, right? Like people are still out there trying to train salespeople to sell cars.
But the only reason I would give up or thought about
machine.
giving up, it was, just the monotonous grind.
So there was never a moment where like it's over. Like you wake up 4:45, alarm goes off, right? And you're like, I can't do this anymore.
No.
I'm done.
Not even with the personal brand?
No. I mean, again, on occasion, I thought, what am I doing this for?
Yeah. Did your wife ever look at you like, why are you doing this?
My wife said to not do it.
Is that right?
She said it's stupid.
Why?
Personal brand?
Why?
Yeah,
why did she say?
Because I didn't even have a social media account. And so I made an Instagram, and then I was in the car and I made a post or something. And she said, oh my God. I said, what? She goes, you're not going to be one of those, are you?
Yeah.
And I said, in fact, I am. And she said, that is so embarrassing. That is so stupid. And I said, just give me 3 or 4 years and you'll be totally different mindset. And 3 or 4 years later, she was like, totally different mindset. She still thinks it's stupid. She still thinks it's embarrassing, but she appreciates the rewards.
I mean, you get stopped everywhere.
Well, I mean, not everywhere, but listen, the personal brand will probably generate 6 to 12 million extra. And, that goes to HIP National Bank.
That's right. Yeah.
So to me, it's like, and not only that, I mean, like now with ChatGPT, dude, I can create a course in 2 seconds and I can base it off all of the brilliant people that have ever existed. I could say, listen, read everything Marcus Aurelius ever wrote and then make me a course on confidence. Put it in Brad Lea's voice. Make sure there's a workbook, a PowerPoint slide deck, and a 2-day workshop and a mastermind plan attached. Enter. And it goes, and there it is. And there it is. So guess what? You can't build a brand on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It'll tell you how to do it, but you cannot make ChatGPT make you famous and get you millions of followers. So at the end of the day, a brand is valuable because now I think information is everywhere. Like again, I mean, these coaching groups, that's another thing. These coaching groups, dude, they got to watch out. Why? Well, because dude, you better leverage ChatGPT or it's going to destroy you. Because again, I can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, you are Steve Jobs mixed with Elon Musk. And here's my business.
In the voice of Brad Lea.
And here's what my problem is. And here are my financials. And here's my target market. And here's everything. Tell me what I should do. Bam. And dude, that advice is almost as good, if not better, than 99.9% of the advice you get out there.
It's true. And I want to run this back just real quick, and maybe we'll close on this point, which is when I was a kid in the 80s, there were mascots for brands. Ronald McDonald, the Hamburglar, Grimace, right? Every company, the Coca-Cola bear, the giraffe from Toys R Us, great pull, Dean Lyulkin. Everybody had a mascot. And the mascot was something that was hopefully relatable to the constituency that you were marketing to. And I find that for a man who understands personal brands as well as you do, the one thing that I don't want to say you refuse to do, but it's almost like a polarity. It's like you're unattracted to it. Lightspeed needs your avatar. And you'll be the avatar for Brad Lea, the brand. But it's like, would you make a Lightspeed podcast and invite the best course creators to come on, tell their story, triumph, defeat, right? The Phoenix rose again, right? Host an event where all the major course creators come downstairs and they tell their story of the knowledge they accumulated, the expertise that they had, and how they decided amongst the many different choices to park their content to train folks using Lightspeed. And then everybody comes to this event who are, aspiring course creators, let's say, for example, or corporations that need to train their people. And they listen to these stories. I'm Bill, I'm from this company, and we have, 400 plumbers in 3 different states. And there's a way we go about doing X, Y, and Z. And we realize a dusty ass manual ain't going to help us grow. It ain't going to help us scale. And all the knowledge that we have up here, again, we write manuals all day, but plumbers ain't going to read a manual, right? Plumbers will watch a video. They'll get trained on it. They'll repeat it over and over again. And then we'll hold them accountable. And then great. Now you know how to do it our way. And that's what separates our brand from the flock, right? And I think the small tweaks that would work and that you tell other brands to do. Again, I'm not trying to give you any advice. I fear giving you advice. But what I would say is it's transformational. Because one of the things that we learned coming out of COVID was that people wanted a community. And any platform that allows for a community to, and that's why the fraternity is so successful. The fraternity is successful because it's a fraternity of men and women that are subject matter experts, that are entrepreneurs, that have achieved some growth, but want to be around people have already unlocked the next few levels, right? They want to be around those. They don't want to just, again, like to your point, they go on ChatGPT and get the answers, but the answers is not an instruction manual, right? It's not the instruction manual. They want a community. And so the fraternity offers them a community. But I think with Lightspeed, it's the same thing. It's like, how can we create a more integrated community of course creators, as well as, corporations that want to train their people and get them interested in connecting with each other, right? You're talking about resources. And if I only knew these marketing folks, it's like you put these events together and people are trading resources and partners and vendors. You should use this guy. You should use that guy. I think that's, unlocking the next level of the,
Well, I'd be worried that they'd all get together and tell everyone that they should be on Kajabi.
Don't be. That's the silliest worry ever.
No, you're just joking.
That's a joke.
He's just joking.
Dude, I always say, listen, if you get Kajabi, it's because you want a hand Kajabi or a blow Kajabi. It's definitely not if you need a training system.
Okay. We haven't really talked about Cardiff, but I do want to say something to you that I think is important, and it has to do with personal brands. So
how come Cardiff isn't on Lightspeed?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't really run Cardiff, so I wouldn't really know. You don't really. But I will say this, and this is sort of gratitude. A few years ago, right before COVID, Cardiff was trying to make this transition we had already made the transition from direct mail, like dropping millions of pieces of mail, to business owners. And we made this transition to digital marketing. We first started on Google because Google was like, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. But then Meta came along and TikTok came along. And I think like so many other entrepreneurs that have built companies, I never felt like I was the face of the brand or that I deserved to be the face of the brand. And so what we did is we went out and we hired actors, influencers to UGC or whatever, to tell the story of Cardiff. And I think people realized that wasn't authentic. And so just a few years ago when I met you and we were on Dropping Bombs, we talked about Cardiff. We talked about how entrepreneurs that need to grow their business, again, they need equipment, they need to hire salespeople, they need to buy inventory, something like that. They have a need, right? And there isn't a whole lot of choices in the market. We were talking about this last night. It's like, well, how easy is it? Well, we try to make it easy for entrepreneurs. See our ads. We try to have it be ubiquitous. Google and TikTok and YouTube and Meta, right? We try to be across all ad platforms so that they can see that there's a differentiating factor about Cardiff that's ease of use, great rates, great customer service. But the truth is it's decision in minutes and funding same day. And we put the ad, which really wasn't meant to be an ad. But you were asking me questions the last time we were on Dropping Bombs. You're like, how much money have you lent? I was like, well, we've lent, at the time, I think it was $8 or $9 billion, right? Over the course of 20 years. And you're like, well, how fast can they get money? And I was like, well, They can apply and approval in minutes and decision same day. And you're like, wow, that's just amazing. So, and you were like, again, you were like trying to help us build this brand. This kind of, you know, this long anecdote sort of explains my gratitude to you, which is like, so many course creators are out there and they want to monetize their knowledge. They know that they have to park it on a platform like Lightspeed. But I think they're worried that how will the world they're worried about how the world will receive them. They're like, well, I'm not an actor. I'm an expert in this field. But it's like you said, right? Everything that you do has the word real in front of it, right? It's about being real. It's about being authentic. And I think people understand that. And I think to the extent that these fledgling course creators can get over themselves, right? And just put their face in front of a camera, and eventually, right, it gets easier. You weren't always good at it, right?
Well, I used to have to drink tequila to do it.
Is that right? No shit. Interesting. But you don't drink anymore.
Not really.
Not really, right? That's interesting. But
It's not that I don't. I just don't.
Yeah. It was like they were talking to Joe Rogan, right? Joe Rogan was sitting down with, who was he sitting down with? He's like, yeah, I don't really drink anymore. He's like, yeah, I just made a decision to stop drinking. It wasn't like I had a problem with it. I just stopped.
I might have a drink if the time's right or the celebration's happening or something, maybe a glass of champagne, maybe a shot of tequila or a sip.
Yeah.
But I don't desire to drink. It's poisonous to your body.
Yeah.
You wake up the next day feeling like shit.
Yeah.
It just doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah.
It served me for a while though.
Yeah.
Overserved me in a lot of cases.
But, you know, getting back to the point about Lightspeed, which is these course creators need to just get over the fact that they themselves deserve a chance at success. And the success is monetizing their knowledge on a platform that allows for, right, those components of training, like what we talked about, right, which is repetition.
Those are components.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a joke.
No, I just
But
like, I like how you say components.
Yeah.
I would say components.
Components.
But you say components.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Well, I can tell you my dad went to school at a British school. So a lot of words that I say differently than most Americans. Like he says herbs, you would say
herbs.
That's right. So a lot of words that I say probably incorrectly. It's like that. What was that movie with Brad Pitt? And the guy's like, he's supposed to be a German soldier. And they figure out he's a spy because he counts like this, which is how Americans count. But in Europe, you count like this. And then they killed him. In any event, don't kill me. But I am doing my darndest to try to show people that Lightspeed is the platform. And that if you really want to monetize your knowledge, there's only one place to go. And if you want a community, right, to interact and learn from and network with, coming in 2025, this is the platform to be on, because you're going to get introduced to other course creators that have already unlocked the levels that you're trying to get to, right? And that's the point. We started this podcast, we're talking about gratitude. And that's what a network, that's what a fraternity, that's what Lightspeed is. It's about gratitude. It's about giving people access to something that you have. Would you agree with that? You've said too much.
Well, that's nice. I appreciate the kind words.